U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
Yeah, well, then also New York City also has the boroughs of the city.
Back to the breaking news involving
5 of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
the
But
alleged 9/11
like I said, Westchester is New York City.
Mhm.
Yonkers is New York City. I don't want to hear it. Like Yonkers is like northern
breaking
Bronx, you know? Like get out of my face. Like a dude, if you're from White Plains, you live in New York City.
Headline: The accused mastermind of the 9/11 terror attack and 2 co-defendants have reached a plea deal. Authorities say
They
will
used
now
his picture.
plead guilty to multiple
picture of him
charges,
in the
including the
beard.
murder of 2,976 people, reportedly to be spared the death penalty. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the alleged mastermind, and the 2 alleged co-conspirators have been held at Guantanamo Bay for years now. ABC's chief
and what's
White House
funny is it
correspondent Terry
fucks up
Bruce
the
with the
rest of the
details.
state. Because like our policy that's like local here will be coming out of policy that's designed for New York City.
Mm.
And it's like kind of annoying. But New York would easily go red if New York City wasn't attached to it.
I'm looking at pictures of this White Plains place. Looks
It's
pretty
New
New
York
York
City.
City. There's towers and everything.
Yeah, I know. I know what I'm talking about, bro. I mean,
That was just now coming in.
people
Tonight, the accused master
pretentious people will be like, that wasn't the Ralph that I. They'll be like, shut up, Brooklyn. Because their name will literally be Brooklyn.
Because it's technically not the city. Well, technically is, but
no, it's an
technically isn't
insult
the
saying
island.
that she's a white girl named Brooklyn.
Oh,
as well as living in Brooklyn.
Right. That's funny. Because yeah, I'm looking at it. What is this? That is Long Island. Okay. So Brooklyn and Queens are technically on Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
mastermind of the 9/11 terror attacks and 2
Bro, I've
other
never even
defendants
been to
striking
Manhattan.
plea deals with prosecutors that will allow
What do you
them
mean?
to avoid the death penalty.
I've never I might have taken a subway through it to get somewhere on like the other side, but why would I go to Manhattan? I have no business like that I had to do there.
Fair. I guess because it is very businessy.
To get like honestly like to cross that city is insane.
But Manhattan is just the island with all the big buildings,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And any bridge you cross is a $15 toll too, at least. So
Awesome.
how many bridges do you have to cross to get where you're going, right? So like Manhattan is kind of just its own little dick down there. Like unless you have a specific reason to go to Manhattan, you're not going to Manhattan. There's nothing like why would I go there? To go to Times Square to buy shoes or something?
You can buy shoes somewhere else.
Exactly. Pay less, even though they're gone. Pay less is gone. Those other Times Square shoe dealers ran them out of business.
In addition to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Walid bin Attash, and Mustafa al-Hassawi have agreed to plead guilty. The New York Times reporting war court prosecutors sent a letter to family members of the victims of the attacks, saying in exchange for the removal of the death penalty as a possible punishment, these 3 accused have agreed to plead guilty to all of the charged offenses, including the murder of the 2,976 people listed in the charge sheet. All 3 are currently being held in Guantanamo Bay, where they are expected to remain for the rest of their lives. The Pentagon has not released details of the deal publicly,
That's such bullshit.
but the trials of the
like we have a fucking supermax prison. Like it's bad for even the guards there. Like nobody wants to fucking work in Guantanamo. Just send them to supermax. And then also, if we're sending him to if the families are going to cry about that, guess where he's going to get stabbed to death? It ain't in Guantanamo.
Man, there's a lot of wilderness up in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
Could build a lot of houses for people that can't afford to live in the city up there.
Well, also there's like it's a New Jersey side of the city. I don't know specifically what it is, but I know you can see the Statue of Liberty, but it's also like a garbage dump. But it's like the housing like used to be really, really cheap over there too. But it's historically where I was thinking in my head Hoboken, but it's not like there's something saying like, no, I think it was something else. But I remember like hearing about it. I've never been over there. I've never been to that part of Jersey. I mean, I have and I haven't. It's crazy because like like I remember I was in Jersey and in, like the downtown part, right? And like it was like not that long ago, like 6 to 8 years ago, and there's still a store sign that had the New York skyline with the Twin Towers on it, and I just thought that was so funny they haven't like changed it. Yeah, well, ironically, I had more work in Jersey than Manhattan, so
Shine cock.
Jack geography.
11 conspirators has been
Like,
delayed
but the whole
for years.
New York
Oh my
City
god, this is
its
why I
own
wasn't
state.
playing.
It really
For
is its
fuck's
own
sake.
state, you know? It has nothing to do with the rest of New York. It's so isolated in culture and everything.
Last September, President Biden rejected a set of demands that had formed the basis of the plea negotiations. Some of the victims' families had expressed outrage when word came last year that a plea deal was in the works.
Now, tonight, I am told that the president and the White House played no role in this process. The president has now directed his team to consult where appropriate with officials and lawyers at the Department of Defense on this matter, David.
Mary Bruce live at the White House with the breaking news. Mary, thank you.
Back to the breaking news involving
the juxtaposition of gray and drab boringness to green, lush gardens and pools of Southampton is fucking gross.
It's crazy because like going home to Syracuse from New York City, you like driving out of the city, you drive by this power plant that's fucking massive. I don't know how much of the power it provides to the area, but it's fucking huge.
Like, just like look at this, right? Right? If I told you that was New York, near the city, would you believe me? Like, having known nothing about the city,
I mean,
you
maybe.
wouldn't believe me, right? Like, that's how far it is. And then you go here, right? Let's just go randomly down here. It's basically the same, but no green. Like, no wonder people in cities are depressed.
the alleged 9/11 mastermind. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin tonight tearing up the plea deal that would have meant life in prison for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Now, the death penalty is back on the table. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Oettinger.
I mean, just poison him. If this is what we're doing, just poison him and say he somehow died of a heart attack. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, just hit him with a ricin strip.
Yeah.
A controversial plea deal with the accused masterminds of 9/11 has now been rescinded by the Secretary of Defense. Responsibility for such a decision should rest with me, Lloyd Austin wrote the Pentagon official responsible for the trial. Effective immediately, he added, I withdraw your authority to enter into a pre-trial agreement and reserve such authority for myself. 2,976 people died September 11th, and even more since then to 9/11 related cancers. The government maintains Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 other top al-Qaeda operatives devised the plan to turn airplanes into missiles and bring down the World Trade Center. The defendants have been at Guantanamo Bay for more than 2 decades, but this week the chief prosecutor announced a plea deal. They would plead guilty but avoid the death penalty. Reaction from the families was swift and unrelenting.
I'm going to be blunt. They should be dead.
To take it off the table now,
then kill them.
Oh my god! Just get all of the families, give 1 bullet in 1 gun, and let them all shoot the cunt, and then he's dead. There you go. Retribution.
Also, 3,000 people died. Are we shocked that we can find a few people that want him to fucking receive the death penalty?
Exactly. So it's like 2 decades of torture and isolation is probably worse than death. This guy is probably more radical than ever before. You think this didn't solidify his beliefs?
He was kind of like the villain inside our al-Qaeda. Like,
shit's crazy. Like, okay, it's back on the table. Just fucking kill him. I don't understand.
The world is on fire.
Also,
Terrorism is rampant.
Killing prisoner. It's technically a prisoner of war. America doing a trial and then executing a prisoner of war in Guantanamo. Like, if you're gonna give him the death penalty, at least send him to a fucking American grounds.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
He can get the firing squad in. What is it? North Carolina?
South Carolina, wasn't it?
Yes, it was South Carolina.
Oh, look, where Lindsey Graham's from.
I can't believe I'm about to shit on 9/11 families. It's because you're listening to me. Most rational people would also agree that he wants to die because it's so easy to frame this story that way. But like Lena said, maybe the 9/11 families should go fuck themselves. Like, oh no, you're like, we have to throw out all our like, okay, as soon as your family died in a terrorist attack, right? We threw out everything, right? And this is like what Mohammed Saleh from the Mortarian movie, right? He says like, you know, like they came after us for our freedom. Ironically, the first thing because of our values of freedom and democracy, right? And ironically, the first thing that the Americans did, they abandoned democracy, freedom, human rights, all their values.
Abandoned them all.
When they claimed that that's why the attack happened.
Still, to this day, abandon their values.
Are we still gonna be down that road? Did we learn nothing from like? I don't care if the plea deal was to avoid the honestly, to say that it was just they weren't going to give him the death penalty anyway, right? So just say, it's easier to report from a court narrative that the plea bargain was avoiding the death penalty. What it actually was fucking simplifying the trial, right? Because what do we think? This guy's gonna fucking have his case nullified and drag out a trial with state money and shit? We know he did it. He pleaded guilty. Let's move on. We could have put it all behind us, but now we can't. We have to drag out his trial even more.
Remind of 9/11.
Mohammed has never seen trial because of how he was treated while in CIA custody. 183 rounds of waterboarding. His legal team says contaminated the evidence against him.
I was like,
and the
when
result
I heard him
this
talking,
week
I was like, they better mention how many times they waterboarded him.
183 is a lot.
Rounds. That's not necessarily
instances. That's rounds, as in they waterboard them multiple times until they're like, that's enough.
No. They took him into waterboarding that many times.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
During the session, they may have had them in there for who knows how long, and who knows how many gallons of water were dumped on him.
Yes. Okay.
That tenuous plea deal that took the death penalty off the table. Now the deal is off. The death penalty.
Because they do a
once
certain
again,
amount of time
the government's
on off. But yeah, no, because they still were in the regulation of how long you could dump the water on. I've talked about this before, but his hands were restrained, and whenever the time was up, he would point his fingers up, knowing. And so, I said, what most likely is that he was saying prayers in his head, like a monk, kind of to focus on something, right? And because he knew how long these prayers were, he was able to time exactly when the torture would end, and it helped actually harden and condition him to the torture.
It's goal, but after so many years, the families of the fallen are no closer to justice.
I don't understand, also that
7.
Lloyd Austin did it and said, no, I'm actually in charge of this case. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, that's weird. Secretary of Defense? Why the fuck are you taking it?
Because
isn't this a job for the Justice Department?
He's technically the Pentagon representative.
But isn't this a Justice Department thing?
No, it's being judged by the military. It's a military trial.
Okay, there's still judges and there's still lawyers.
Yeah.
Which
so
means
that's
that
what I'm saying.
The judges and lawyers can make deals with the plaintiffs.
Yeah,
like
but I
any
guess
other?
in a military court. So keep this in mind. Any future people, any Nazis that we arrest after World War III, keep this in mind that they can just fuck you over after you do a plea bargain and give them information or something. They can then overturn it and take you back to court to kill you then.
Don't talk to cops.
Well, I would say don't be Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to begin with, and then you're probably in better shape.
Yeah, true. Generally good advice. Don't talk to cops.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he didn't talk. All he did was tell them that the Muslims in Montana are doing an attack.
After a virtual roll call.
Okay.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has revoked a plea deal for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 other men held at Guantanamo accused of plotting the 9/11 attacks. Under the deal, the prisoners had agreed to plead guilty and be sentenced to life in prison. But on Friday, Austin rescinded the deal in a move that will put the death penalty back on the table for the 3 men. For more, we're joined in Boston by Terry Rockefeller, a member of September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows. Her sister Laura died in the World Trade Center attacks. Terry had supported the plea deal. Here in New York, Shayna Kadidal is the managing attorney of the Guantanamo Project at the Center for Constitutional Rights. Welcome you both to Democracy Now! Shayna, let's begin with you. It was a surprise first to hear this plea deal was worked out. I mean, they've been at Guantanamo for decades, these 3 men. They stay in prison for the rest of their lives, but death penalty was off the table. And then it was another shock to see that the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, had vetoed the deal. Explain what happened.
Sure. Well, first of all, the prosecutors wanted this deal badly, right? Because I think they understood, as anyone else who's observed this process understands, that the death penalty was never going to happen in these cases for a bunch of reasons, right? There's a common misconception that the issue is torture evidence. There's actually a lot of evidence that isn't contaminated by torture, including, pre-detention confessions to Al Jazeera that KSM made, cooperating witnesses, and so forth. The problem is more, when you get to sentencing.
When you say torture evidence, you're saying that the fact that, for example, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was waterboarded about 100 times contaminated his so-called confession.
It contaminated a lot of the confessions, obviously, that took place in detention. The military prosecutors have made a great number of attempts to keep some of the confessions that allegedly happened after they were brought to Guantanamo and after the worst of the CIA torture supposedly stopped. And that's one reason these cases have dragged on for so long. But, putting to one side the fact that it would take years to get to trial and years after any death sentence to enforce it, and these defendants are in their mid-50s, there are also problems at the sentencing phase, right? The CIA is never going to want to produce its witnesses. They've already shown that in other cases, witnesses to the torture that the defendants could put on to show what happened to them, and arguing for clemency and arguing against the death penalty, right? And then they also fear what the military juries might do after they hear the evidence of torture.
And when you say military juries, explain that these are not brought into regular courts.
Right. If they had been brought to federal court, we'd get a jury of civilians here in New York. In the military commissions, you get a jury of military officers. But we had a client who was horribly tortured, who pled guilty to some offenses.
This is bad. This is bad journalism. This is really bad. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin has helped Department of Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin to reverse the revokes of plea deals of 3 men accused of plotting the September 11th terrorist attacks. Get a copy editor. Holy shit, OAN. Good Lord.
Linked to al-Qaeda, and the military jury kind of showed that in a statement that they issued afterwards that they really
just OAN just needs a copy editor.
What'd they say?
Just inane ramblings. Like, says basically just look, journalistically it's fine, grammatically it's awful. Right.
Just explaining about grammar.
Yeah, like apparently, Dick Durbin is urging.
Okay, this is a great question, and it leads into what I was going to say anyway. If you go onto our Spotify or our YouTube, we have an LTech playlist where we actually do a Who Did 9/11 interview, where we actually go into all that stuff with my friend Adam Fitzgerald, who does he still is a 9/11 truther, but he's actually interested in the truth behind things. And he's like me, he's very fascinated with the political ties and everything about 9/11. That said, I saw him appear on my feed, so I asked him of his opinion on this, right? Because like we disagree heavily on like our opinions about a lot of this stuff, even though we both have similar information. And he was like, I want to see it go to trial because I want to see the evidence they do or don't have against him. And I'm like, I mean, that's a good point. Like that's the issue. It says that the evidence is like in jeopardy because there's the torture stuff in there. Right? So like how do you like give justifiable evidence? Because I don't like the CIA didn't ever think that there might be a trial in the future that they'll have to do a criminal trial. Like they didn't think about the future with these people. It was all about the next attack. We have to find out the next attack. What is the next thing al-Qaeda is going to do? Yeah, bro, he was planning up. Oh, he already was on the follow-up attack after he spent like how many years? But he like the pachinko plot, right? Is like, so it's something like that. It may not be pachinko. It might be another word, but it's something like that. But like they knew about the attack for years ahead. But the actual Saudi government ties is not like an upper echelon of the Saudi government. Right. It's more like somebody in the Saudi government pushed assets towards them. But to have like say that specifically the Saudi government knew about something would be like saying like, well, Egypt funds Hamas. Egypt is responsible for October 7th. Not really. There's people inside Egypt and probably inside Egypt's government that helped with October 7th. But did they know it was going to happen? That's a different story. But also Israel is implicated in that Saudi backing and those Saudi agents. It gets very interesting. I can't remember everything off the top of my head, but that episode will go over all the evidence and all the other political stuff.
Were troubled by what they had seen in terms of his torture. And so this is a concern for the prosecutors.
And finally, people might be surprised that the defense secretary gets to decide this.
Well, he really doesn't, right?
I agree.
Lloyd Austin is the original convening authority, the person in charge of the military commissions, but he delegated all of his power to General Escalier, who made the decision to sign off on these agreements, right? So there's a really significant question here whether or not what Austin did in removing Escalier from her role in approving these agreements and purporting to withdraw the agreements, there's a real question about whether it's legal, right? Under the Manual for Military Commissions, there are very narrow circumstances where you can withdraw an agreement that's already been signed.
There's a question if
right?
if he's legally allowed to overturn the plea bargain. The dude is held in Guantanamo Bay, and as far as we know, holds the world record for being waterboarded. Legal. Nothing you've done is legal. I guess why start obeying the law now at this point, right, America? Fuck it.
And then beyond that, there are going to be legal challenges based on command influence. You know, in the civilian system, Donald Trump can remove the attorney general if he doesn't like a prosecution, but generally
I do not see evidence specifically that the Saudi government specifically knew about 9/11 specifically. There might be people who knew about attacks on America and didn't care. Even then, it's a little shaky, and it's more gets into the Israel stuff that's also associated with that one. But obviously, Saudi Arabia backed al-Qaeda. Like, they were giving tons of money to the Mujahideen groups. Like, they helped create them. So did America. You know, it's like, I'm sure you could probably find American officials somehow tied to it because they donated to some dumb charity or something. So and also the Saudi government itself, because it's the way it is, it doesn't really matter what lower government does. But I want to say somebody inside the royal family is connected in helping fund 9/11. But they used to pay people who did suicide bombings in Palestine, right? They paid, like Saddam did the same thing. He paid out martyrs, right? Is there evidence that that's what, like, how do they know? Like, that's the issue.
The AG is supposed to operate independently, but that's based on norms. In the military system, it's all written into the two major statutes. So there are going to be significant challenges to both whether the withdrawal is legal and effective and whether it involves command influence. And the remedy for command influence is dismissal of the charges. So, yet another chapter in the ongoing train wreck that is the military commissions.
I want to bring Terry Rockefeller into this conversation. Terry's sister Laura died on 9/11 on September 11th, 2001 at the World Trade Center. She's with September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows. Your response to the plea deal originally, it's something you have called for, and then Lloyd Austin nixing it.
Well, I think, Amy, every time we speak, it seems that it's, one more instance of just the terrible ongoing repercussions of the very bad decisions that were made in the immediate wake of 9/11. September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows had initially hoped that we would see trials in federal court. We know that the federal courts are very competent in handling terrorism cases and very competent in handling cases where there's a great deal of classified information. That didn't happen. We had politicians in New York blocking that. So we became very invested in figuring out just what was going to go on in the military commissions. And frankly, I'm looking back now, I was present for the arraignment of the then 5 men who had been accused of supporting the 9/11 attacks. That was in May of 2012. Within 5 years, the members of our organization grew convinced that we were never going to see a trial. And we were also keenly aware of the number of victim family members who were dying without seeing justice. We began working very hard for plea agreements. There was one iteration that was initiated, and I always emphasize it's important to understand.
Is that the evidence of the someone in the Saudi government had the Casios?
And many of the politicians who don't really understand what is ongoing at Guantanamo don't appreciate that it was the prosecution that sought plea agreements because they themselves recognized the very difficult case they had on their hands. When the first attempt fell through, we were frustrated, but we were frankly totally surprised by the announcement that 3 of the men had completed their agreements. And I guess I felt relief. I thought about how
I got an idea.
Finally there was going to be not the complete rule of law that we
repatriate him to Saudi Arabia and have them cut his head off. I mean, it was good enough to have Egypt do the torture that got us into Iraq in the first place, right?
We would have wanted to see, but an opportunity for some accountability and, more importantly, some kind of judicial finality. When that was revoked within such a short period of time, I just feel like once again we're on uncharted waters, and I'm just I'm so sad for our country that we haven't been able to grapple with the mistakes that were made in handling this case.
All right, let's interview
and
this
come
lady.
to terms.
This one.
Right. Yeah. Write her down. Her org. Because she's like saying what I'm saying and feeling in a less angry way.
With those mistakes and rescue something about the rule of law in this nation so that we can move forward as a country.
Terry, Defense Secretary Austin cited the emotions and
Like for Biden to care, that's the thing. It's just like Biden said, oh, I don't know, nothing to do with me. Right? But it's like, that's your employee, bro.
Okay.
So
I don't
like,
think she's in any organization.
yes, she is.
Where?
She said their organization several times. It's like Families for Peace after 9/11.
Okay.
And rescue something about the rule of law in this nation so that we can move forward as a country.
Terry, Defense Secretary Austin cited the emotions and desires of 9/11 families as justification for revoking the plea deal. If you can respond to that and what you would say to those who might be using your family's loss to justify this revocation.
That brought the prisoners from Russia because he thought it was Air Force One. I mean, he's only there for a few more days, basically. Like it's like I remember what I said, Jack? That it's like the early retirement thing, right?
Yes.
Where you start scaling back. That's what he should do. Kind of what he did.
I think
feels
the range of opinions and feelings among 9/11 family members is so diverse.
Yeah, I got it.
That
apparently Lloyd Austin did not know about this plea deal and was surprised when it showed up on his desk. I don't know how much I believe that.
He was too busy with
I
his
wouldn't want.
That's
I don't want
according
to characterize them.
He was going to thank the pilots. Okay, I mean, I'll let him say that.
That
still,
as a group of people,
he was also probably confused, and then he just came up with something on the spot. Because, like, hey, I mean, I've walked into places that aren't mine. You know, like you come back from the bathroom in school, and you walk into the classroom you had last year.
Right, this psycho fired the prosecutor as well.
Lloyd Austin?
Yeah. Brigadier General. So the lady who made the plea deal, who was in charge of this, is a Brigadier General, and Lloyd Austin, an unelected bureaucrat, was just like, fuck you. See you later. I'm the authority. Gotta love America, don't we?
That's what I'm saying. Like, and now Biden can't like come out and be hard on this to be like, it's not the authority of Lloyd Austin, right? Biden can't do that. No, he can't electorally, is what I mean.
Oh,
right. So like, then
you're not realizing what I'm saying.
The narrative will be that he is like, he's pro-terrorism because he's like not giving Israel shit and also is letting the 9/11 actors like get away without getting the death penalty or something. Who knows, you know?
I don't think, surely the left wing isn't gonna
No, it's the swingers that we have to care about. Because America's not like a democracy in the traditional sense. You only have to appease to a small section of people.
Yeah. Also, that's not what I meant. What I meant is he is appointed to that position. He was not elected by the people to be the Department of Defense Secretary. That's my point. She was assigned to this role. Her job was this. Right?
Well, he was assigned to his role.
Sure, right, but who assigned her? That's what I would be interested to find out.
Well, he did. Basically,
sure. So she was just wait. So if he appointed her, he delegated her.
Yes,
the authority.
He delegated the authority to do this, and then
now he's mad that it happened.
Yes.
You're a fucking moron.
Yes, exactly.
And the only organization that has the capacity to go down to Guantanamo and attend the ongoing pre-trial hearings as a representative of an NGO. So we have an opportunity to speak to both sides, both the prosecution and the defense. And I think that had family members actually gotten all the opportunities that the plea agreement promised us, many of them would have been satisfied. The plea agreement included an opportunity for family members to pose questions to the defendants and get those answers within 45 days.
Fantastic. This is what we want. We're very close. We're almost to 2. We're very fucking close to getting affiliate on Twitch. I don't know what that means, but it's one step closer to that partner thing, and I think they start giving you money.
Basically,
many of the family members who are awaiting trial are really eager to learn about many issues that go far beyond the roles of the 5 men who were accused, now down to 4 men because one of them has been ruled incompetent to stand trial. But
do
you not look at the scroller?
Mentioned here. The criticisms, her organization is specifically listed as one of the people who criticized the military commission. So the military commission to try these people was set up by President Bush. So the Guantanamo military commissions were established by President George W. Bush through a military order on November 13th, 2001.
Yeah.
To try certain non-citizens terrorism suspects at the Guantanamo Bay prison. So like, damn, they like set that up. Like, what was the earliest people went into Guantanamo? You know, because to have that set up already,
surely it would be literally 2004. Like that's the answer I would expect.
What, when people first went to Gitmo?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know when it was set up, but that would be my.
Well, they did it. They transferred them all from the black sites.
Yeah.
Okay. First detainees were transferred in the prison in 2002. And Abu Zubaydah, they've been there the whole time.
As a diverse community of people who lost family members had an opportunity to really take advantage of what the plea agreements offered, we might be a lot further along as a nation.
Okay, here's what's interesting. Several of the 8 convictions have been overturned in whole or in part on appeal by U.S. federal courts. So it's not unprecedented that they haven't overturned decisions in the past. But that was actually the federal courts, not Lloyd Austin.
Reaching some kind of understanding.
You know, if we can talk to this lady, I'm sure we'll be able to learn a lot more specifically about the judicial process. So they're like the most proponent critics of the military commission. So prominent. I don't know what most proponent critics. What the fuck am I talking about? Prominent.
That's honestly pretty funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, Castro claimed that he doesn't cash the checks. He opened a drawer and said that these are the checks. I don't even cash them. You know, they might. We don't know for sure. But I honestly don't care. It's fun. Castro is just a funny shit talker in general. So anything he was doing to insult the United States is great.
Now to the story that
I love I don't need to wear a bulletproof vest in America. Okay. Like, yeah, we're gonna fucking just assassinate you when you're on a diplomatic mission here. Like, oh wow, you don't wear a bulletproof vest here.
Yeah, no American official is going to.
And you can tell, like, the bulletproof vest thing that he does, like, it's clearly like a planted thing where somebody comes up, I heard you don't wear a bulletproof vest in America.
Imam Khalid
has
spoken
dead.
out.
Of course he's not.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?